My name is Mary Mulligan, and I'm an American doing my PhD at the University of Göttingen in Germany and at IPB University in Indonesia. My PhD project takes place in Lorilindu National Park in Sulawesi. For the first part of my doctoral studies, I got to spend an entire year in Indonesia, exploring, adventuring, and learning about Lorilindu. This fieldwork and the time I spent in the forest in Indonesia was one of the most exciting experiences of my life. At the end of the PhD, my scientific output will be realized and my results will be published. But life as a researcher is so much more than that. What you see in plain tables and figures at the end requires so much effort and dedication. And oftentimes, the unpublished personal experiences and adventures behind all of this are the most essential ingredients for life-changing experiences you will never forget.
Look alive, look alive.
Here is some of that story.
Hi Mary, a beautiful place you found here.
I know, I love to work here.
And you work on orchids in Indonesia.
Yeah, that and biogeography and plot data.
I heard you even found a new species, a new orchid species, probably.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's being prepared now for the publication.
So you survived your last trip to Indonesia.
Yes, survived and getting ready for the next one.
How difficult was the fieldwork this time?
Ooh, it's a nice question. I think it depends on your perspective because, I mean, physically it's challenging, yes. But it's also exciting, you know? Yeah, that's the part that I really love. Definitely, like 2 days before we get to the field, it's hectic.
Yeah.
And this is more like a mental challenge.
Yeah.
It's so many like checklists of like, did we pack all the right food? Did we bring all the equipment? Did I remember my mug? No, I forgot my mug.
Do you have enough batteries? I mean, you stay out in the forest for how long?
It can be a week, it can be 2 weeks. It's a long time and we have to pack in all our food, all of our batteries, equipment, everything. I mean, typically the team is 8 people or 10 people or 9 people. So it's a lot of food, that's a lot of rice, that's a lot of sardines.
And if you need to take a lot of rice, you also need to take additional people to carry all this. I mean, are you really building a camp in the forest?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's so exciting. I mean, depending on, I guess you could say the wish of the local workers. I mean, sometimes we've had entire like structures built in the forest. Yeah, so it's really exciting. In our team dynamic, we always have one local worker who, when we're up at the plot measuring the trees in the day, he will prepare food, so we have something to eat when we're back. And then we'll also just, you know, kind of hold down the fort.
And what about water? You will take some water, yes, for sure, but you need to build your camp somewhere close to a river,
Exactly, yeah.
a beautiful waterfall or something.
Exactly. I mean, really, like here, our shower, you know, like our shower was a waterfall. It was absolutely gorgeous. I love this work. So, okay, I have one of the papers from when this work was done the first time, and you can see where the 13 plots are distributed. Yeah. And I mean, from this map, you can't really see, but this is deep into the forest. I mean,
sure.
Like,
I mean, it's a huge area, right? It spans like 80 kilometers or something from south to north.
Yeah. It's really large. So, for example, this was our first plot. It took us the whole day to get there. And we were hiking. It was a really intense, really satisfying hike. I mean, it was a longer river. And it was our first plot, so we had additional national park staff so we could train everybody. And so we're just moving as a group, helping each other cross the river, and you know, somebody slips and falls in, or me, or like someone's foot is getting stuck.
But this also means you need to keep an eye on field security, right? So you need to be prepared for the worst case scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you need to take someone out of this forest, it takes 1 or 2 days until you are in a hospital.
Thankfully, I mean, the team that we have is so talented, you know? And yeah, speaking of supplies, I mean, sometimes there we are, you know, we have like 1 or 2 days left in the field and we run out of batteries or something really important that we need. It's happened. And so I remember for this first plot, there was one evening where 2 of the local workers, they had to, you know, basically go down the mountains so that they could bring up more supplies the next day.
This shows that planning is essential. Because it's really a kind of adventure, and if you are not well prepared, then it's also a risk for the whole team, right?
Right, exactly.
And how is it during the night in your field camp?
Ooh, good question. Everybody in the team has dinner together, you know, sit around the fire, you know, tell stories, laugh and enjoy our time. Yeah, some nights we stay up and look at the stars. Some nights we try to find the tarsiers, who's a nocturnal animal. We shine the light into the canopies.
You even send photos of that you are collecting frogs for dinner?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, sometimes we have like a midnight frog restaurant that opens.
Okay. I hope it's not some endangered species.
No, but it is spicy, so you have to be sure that you can handle spicy food.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that you need to adapt. Whenever you work in Asia, you need to reserve some time to adapt to the climate and also to the food.
Yeah, I think one of the best survival skills for me in the forest is that I'm so lucky to like spicy food. And to have grown up eating spicy food, because in Indonesia, otherwise you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah, and usually after some weeks of eating rice, you really miss German bread. At least me. Yeah, you are American, you are maybe not.
Our bread is not so memorable, I think.
Yeah.
But I miss the German bread, honestly. I guess I can walk you through the process of like what happens when we take that first step.
Yeah.
There will be a few of us in the group who have the plot location loaded into our GPS. And the National Park staff of Lurlindu is so experienced. They've been to this area and in and out. They know the trails, they know the river networks. Yeah. So they'll have a general idea of how we can get there.
From which side you can access.
Right, exactly. We follow the path that they've sort of laid out that they think is the best option. And we'll get as close to that plot as we can. So maybe it will be a kilometer away, something like that. And then, because it takes pretty much all day to hike there, it's already starting to get a little bit dark. Now we need to set up camp. We basically have to find, okay, where is the nearest water source? And then we kind of scout around the river and find where there's a large enough space for us to set up our tents or our tarps and to kind of, you know, make our little home in the forest. So we do that, we go to sleep, and the next day we wake up bright and early, have our coffee, and then we trek to the plot. So typically it takes, in the best case, it could take 10 minutes to get to the plot, but sometimes it takes about an hour from our camp. But sometimes that's the best you got, you know? If there's no water close to the plot, then there's no water close to the plot. So we get there, and then we start looking for tree tags.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that means these are the tags that have been fixed on the trees already how many years ago?
12 years ago.
12 years ago.
And some
So
of
it's
them,
a repeated measurement of exactly the same plots, exactly the same trees.
Exactly.
Which will give us a huge data set that is really interesting.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
And
So-
you still find the tree tags.
Yes.
And then you try to find the plot boundaries.
Yeah. So we are lucky enough that there are hundreds of trees per plot. Well, lucky and unlucky, you could say, because that means we have to measure hundreds of trees, which I love, but definitely it takes time. We have not seen, and I don't think that we'll ever see, that you lose hundreds of tree tags in 12 years. Definitely we have some missing ones. It was very fascinating because you can see how if the tag is there or not also relates to the forest dynamics. So in our low elevation plots where there's a lot of tree growth, there's a lot of trees that die and then decompose very quickly, you can't find the tags in many cases. But in, you know, the higher elevation, you have a good chance that you're going to find most.
And then you do repeated measurement for exactly the same trees so that we have time series.
You know, let's say that we're measuring plots B4 and we have 4 tags that are missing. Sometimes, you know, you can't match that. Even if the tag is missing, if we have the position and then we can confirm that it's the right species, okay, now we have a match.
And a diameter that is realistic, let's say.
Yeah, and now we have a match, and that's possible because of the botanists on the team. So
I remember that at the beginning of the project, we put a lot of effort in convincing you to take this position as a PhD student and to go to Indonesia, and you were, okay, maybe. And then, but now I have the feeling that you're quite happy.
Yeah, and that I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. You know, when I was learning about the PhD and about how it runs, you had even made a comment. You said, yeah, Mary, if you want to spend 2 out of the 3 years in Indonesia, go have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, the goal of my PhD, it's a big task. It's, okay, design a permanent monitoring system for a national park that I had never been to, a country I had never been to. You know, I'm so thankful in Göttingen to know so many Indonesians who have moved here, but it was completely new to me, and I'm very humbled by the fact that I get to work in this beautiful place. But I also, you know, constantly remind myself, this design, whatever we come up with in the end, it has to fit the local situation.
And it's not only about trees. I mean, we are focusing a lot on trees, but I mean, this whole orchid topic, it was just a side issue, right?
Yeah.
It was just
It was just a bit random.
yeah.
Yeah, and a bit opportunistic even. And that's why I love permanent plots, and that's why I love tree inventories, because it's the basis of everything, right? What's the forest without the trees? So I really love this idea that if we commit every 5 years, every 10 years to going to the same place, on the way, you can't help but find new orchid species. On the way, you can't help but you know, discover new interactions between the wildlife and the fauna, you know, flora and fauna.
The permanent plots itself, they are such a great source of data. At the end, we are never able to plan a permanent monitoring system. A monitoring system becomes permanent once you start to repeat the measurements. And this is always something where you are not sure whether this will work out in future. Now we are remeasuring these plots, and we are so lucky that we found these old data. And if you now imagine that we are able to construct a time series of 20, 30 years in this kind of forests, then we can learn a lot about the dynamics. But it's only possible if you go back to the same place, as you said, if we commit, we do the same measurements exactly in the same way, on the same place. And this is something that also needs a certain amount of institutionalization. Someone needs to feel responsible for the data, to maintain the data, to make them available.
In Indonesia, if you want to do research there, you really have to want it.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
Yeah.
No.
And I think that's a beautiful thing, you know?
But from my own experience, once you have worked in Indonesia, you always like to go back. So I always love to go back. So and now you also became an orchid expert.
Getting there. I
And-
really hope to be one day.
So you are out with the whole team. Probably you are looking more for orchids than for trees, you personally.
I think that my eyes just get drawn to them. This just goes to show how diverse Lurlindu National Park is. We find almost a new orchid a day.
Really?
Yes, not a new species, you know, we had to do the work to check and to see if it's a new species, but we find a different orchid almost every day. And not because we're actively looking for it, but they're just there, you know? We hike to our plot and, you know, you walk on the trail, you look at a tree next to you and boom, growing on the trunk is an orchid or 3 different species, you know?
How are you able to say whether this is a new species or not?
So if you're a very talented botanist, probably you can see an orchid and know already the genus, more or less. And then there are really incredible resources. I know one, for example, Digital Flora of Indonesia. It's a website and it's actually co-managed by the botanist on our team. And so, you know, when we try to identify the different orchids that we found in the field, I have a picture that we've taken in the field of that orchid, and then I have the list from, you know, Digital Flora of Indonesia, and I really go step by step.
Hard work, a long
And
process.
Yeah, and I check every, you know, hopefully, in many cases, the botanist can give an idea about potential genuses that it might be, and then I'll go to that genus, and sometimes it has 5 species, sometimes it has 25 species. Or 40 or 50, and I go really step by step, and I try
And if you don't find it there, you need to go to another genus.
Right, exactly. Okay, so here's the process. So, first thing we do is take a picture of that orchid in its habitat, right? We want to know, is it terrestrial? Is it growing on the side of a tree? You know, is it a small tree, large tree? Something about that. So we take a picture, we take some notes, we mark the elevation with our GPS and the location with the GPS, and then we take some pictures. of the details of the flower. So that's another important part. It's not enough just to find an orchid with some leaves. You really have to find the flower if you want to do the whole work. So we take a sample to the camp. We take very detailed pictures. The camera of the botanist on the team is very good.
Yeah.
So in some cases, we can really get pictures as nice as this. So take pictures, have it with the scale, because of course if you read a book like this, it gives the measurements for all parts of it. Then you have to dissect the orchid into all of its parts. And it's really exciting because the smallest orchid that we found in the field, it's just a few millimeters, the whole flower. So it was so exciting to watch the botanist dissect this with a needle. Then the final step in the field is to preserve that flower in alcohol. Because afterward in the herbarium, that's where some more work happens. So yeah.
There is a certain probability that there are many, many more still unknown species.
Exactly.
And it's not only about orchids, it's also about birds and bats and whatever is living in this very diverse ecosystem there. You had your plots on different altitudes, right?
Yes.
And also on different sides of the national park.
Exactly.
How different are the conditions? How different are the forest types?
Oh, it's like you're in a completely different forest.
Yeah?
Really, I mean, I have a feeling each of the 6 plots are distinct.
Yeah.
They have their own species composition. They have their own character, you know. They have their own animals that come by to visit and say hi, you know. That has been one of the most surprising aspects. I really had a feeling before I started that, you know, I had an image of tropical forest. You know, I've been so lucky to have been in tropical forests in Africa, in Central America, and you get this sort of idea of, you know, large trees, big buttress roots, large leaves. But Lurleen National Park, it's just such a surprise because every plot is different.
That also shows that it makes a lot of sense to have rather small plots and distribute them across the whole area to capture all of this variability, right?
Yeah, it's really nice that this study was looking at that elevational gradient. And as I've compared these different global monitoring systems or monitoring schemes, there's one of them called the Global Island Monitoring System, and it specifically recommends that. It specifically recommends when you set up permanent plots, do this every 200 meters along an elevational gradient. So yeah, I think it's just excellent, you know, from a biogeography perspective, you can see many similarities in the change of species composition, structure, function of a forest going up a mountain as you do going, you know, up latitude, right? So going from the equator north or south. This book already gives you a nice idea of what the upper elevation areas look like in Lurleen National Park. So
it's rather a cloud forest, I would say.
Exactly. I mean, many people would not expect this when you say tropical forest, right? You wouldn't expect, you know, small trees or everything covered in moss. Maybe you would think, okay, maybe somewhere in Norway you have so much moss covering the trees, but no, sure enough, this is Indonesia.